Hello, everybody out there on YouTube. We are the Middle-Aged Guys, and we're going to be bullshitting about, well, we're going to wrap up our thoughts about E3, and we're going to go ahead and be concentrating on Sony and their presentation in this particular video. Let's get the introductions out of the way. I'm the Reverend.
The Theme here.
And I'm Grey Mouse 1.
Sony at QTE3 2017. Wait, did I say that? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Sony presentation as it goes, well, it was there front and center during their scheduled press conference and everything else. And I gotta say, mixed reactions all the way around from a lot of people in regards to the presentation, especially amongst our little group here. And we're gonna kind of, before we get into like the whole of the presentation, we're gonna talk about some of the key games that they showed off. It's kind of surprising. I believe Grey Mouse said that the count for like their about an hour presentation was maybe around 17 games altogether. I don't think there was too many brand new announcements. And amongst those announcements that were there that were brand new, around 5 of them were VR games. So let's just go ahead and let's go down the list and let's talk about some of the key titles that was brought up. One of the ones that kind of surprised folks, and you know, not for the just the good of everything, was I guess Shadow of the Colossus is getting a brand new remake. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Okay, my thought was like, wait a minute, why is Shadow of Colossus getting a remake, but Ico is not? Ico is the very first one of the series, so them going straight to Shadow of Colossus, that kind of confused me. But okay, it looks good, but that was the only thing that confused me at that point.
Yeah. What about you, Grey Mouse? What were your thoughts on that?
Well, we are in the era of remake, so it really didn't surprise me at all. But I have to echo what the Theme just said. You know, I mean, kind of odd that Shadow of the Colossus has a remake and not Echo, or Eco rather. But I don't know. I mean, would an Eco game be feasible at this day and age?
Well, I think it would. I think the only thing that makes sense about the Shadow of Colossus is that even after the remaster that they did for PS3, the thing that the remaster did for PS3 that was rather drastic, a marked improvement over the original, was the fact that, well, the original, you were lucky to hit 20 frames per second when you were playing it, and anything else except for just the landscape was on screen. And that's because the technology and the engine that they built was just way beyond what the PS2 was capable of handling, you know. But they were already completely entrenched in that, so they went ahead and they put it out. So obviously,
so the console was initially $600, but you can barely handle Ico or Shadow of Colossus.
Well, initially I think it was $350, but the point of the matter is that when they went ahead, they did the remake. They got it to where it was consistently above 20 frames, but it didn't stay at 30 frames. Okay, so obviously, again, you know, the engine and the technology that they were using behind it is asking for more horsepower. Okay, that's the only thing that I can make sense of, because the Eco remake, Eco remastered on PS3, is exactly that. Hey, upscaled assets and things like that. But Eco didn't have a problem, you know, staying at 30 frames per second. It was at an even clip the whole time, even on the PS2, even as a first generation game on the PS2. So it did not fall under the same sort of technological limitations or the self-imposed technological limitations, because what they were asking for, you know, it's Team Ico, they were just when they did Shadow Colossus, I don't know if they knew exactly how big or what they were creating, but it's definitely a beast, and that's not a play on words. Okay,
Yeah, the play on words. The thing is, though, the Shadow of the Colossus remake, it looks stunning, and when the guy was coming up the Colossus, like, oh wait, I know that one. So I mean, I'm glad to see it, in in better graphics, I guess, and better frame rate than the original. But I don't know. They didn't mention anything about having more assets on the game, did they? Did they say they were going to add anything or?
No, I think all they're really going to do is just an engine overhaul to make sure that they can actually get it.
So it's going to be a straight remake.
Yeah, it's a
remake, a remastered rather.
Yeah, no, it's not a remaster. It's a remake.
Yeah,
it's a remake.
That's from the ground up.
Remake, when you say remake, you're thinking that they're going to actually redo everything and add stuff. To it, is what I was asking. No,
they're going to redo the engine. They have to in order to sit there and make sure that it works. Mm-hmm. Not only that it works well with the PS4 and the PS4 Pro, but also so that hopefully they're going to be able to sit there, if not move it past 30 frames, at least lock it down to where it's like everything is locked 30 frames. Which if they do that, kudos. All right, it definitely is a technological achievement. All right, but that's only one part of the E3 presentation. One of the other things that was mentioned on E3. Well, let's go back and let's touch on not on a remake or a remaster, but on a game that was mentioned previously, in E3 2016, Days Gone. Okay, came back and it had a much longer preview. They chose not to go ahead and end their presentation with a playable portion of it, but it had a much longer preview, which really reached into the story and everything like that. What were your guys' thoughts on that?
That actually fucking looks good. I really do applaud that they actually showed something that, okay, fine. Days Gone looks interesting. It actually looks good. Now I am looking forward to that.
Yep. What about you, Grey Mouse?
Well, Days Gone was interesting. You did more than just see the guy on the bike. He got knocked off the bike and he had to go off the trail a little bit, which was good. I like that. And seemed like it's like going to be a lot of QTE, but it is what it is. But I had to throw that in there, guys. I did like the presentation for Days Gone, and like I said, like I echo what Theme says. I'm very interested in that, and I'll probably end up having that in my collection.
Yeah, I gotta say, if last year's E3, their portion of E3 that they showed off, if that didn't grab my attention or, have me sold on Days Gone, this particular one, I do like the fact that they took a few minutes to sit there and say, oh, look, it's not just about warding off, massive hordes of zombies and everything like that. No, there's an actual fleshed out world aside from the hordes of undead that are out there that, yes, you're definitely going to have to deal with, and this kind of opened that up and showed that, hey, look, the people that you deal with, the live human beings, guess what? They can be just as treacherous, and actually, they're definitely more treacherous, and they can be just as dangerous as any of the, running, screaming hordes of zombies that are coming after you.
I mean, right? Another thing about Days Gone, they did show some gameplay in that.
Yeah.
Again, they showed you running around in riding a motorcycle and stuff like that, and they showed some gameplay. And this is a Sony exclusive.
Well, yeah. One thing that I forgot to mention is that there's a little bit of tactical stuff as well. I mean, that you broke a fence and you saw your enemy, your buddy was held prisoner, in one of these human camps, and you broke the fence and you allowed those zombies to go in. So it's tactical, and I like that. I was like, oh, so there, just like you said, Reverend, there's more to the game than just, holding off 300 or 400 fucking zombies coming at you with an automatic gun. Yeah. But even then, last year's press conference as well, you had environmental effects. You blew up that barn when they went in. You blew up the barrels by the barn, and you jumped over obstacles. So it's obvious that you could actually use, this year, that you could actually use your environment to your advantage or to your disadvantage, depending on how you do it. Because that gameplay trailer, they did show the guy, sneak around that other human camp, So I think it's going to be a good game, and I'm definitely going to put it in my in my collection.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think as far as Days Gone goes, it's one of those things where like I said, the first time I saw it, it had me intrigued. This particular one, they went ahead and they clued off that there's a lot more than just the zombies that we have to worry about. So that does this is particularly one that they didn't exactly have to go ahead and handle like a hard sell to me personally. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And it's. Days Gone was not the only game that they went ahead and they revisited from last year or from previous E3s. They also brought back a much larger clip and a much larger demonstration of Detroit Become Human, which admittedly, when I saw the information on Detroit Become Human last time around, it was really intriguing, but there was a lot of floating points in the air where people were like, okay, now, is this something that's happening in real time? Is this something that, it's just choose your own adventure, you see it play out, or what happened? It looks like, yes, you're going to have a lot of direct control, and that, as far as the branching trees and the branching outcomes from like your decisions and things like that, seems that they're actually rather impactful. At least that was the impression that I got. Was there anything else that I might have missed on that particular one, guys?
No. That looks like one of the most interesting games. That was one of the most interesting games of their whole conference. Especially, like you said, the story is going to branch out. I wonder if it's going to branch back in as far as having one ending or multiple ones.
I think they said multiple endings. There's different ways, each situation, there's different ways in and out of it. I mean, we saw that in last year's conference. But I still stand by saying that I feel like that game is like iRobot. I'm not saying that it's not interesting. I like it. But the whole androids taking over, that's a cliche and a trope that's been done to death. And that's just my opinion. I mean,
they just want to be free.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, the choose your own adventure part of it, yeah. Like when they did see the branches of the trees that you could select, and that's crazy. I mean, there's a lot of outcomes for how you answer certain questions or how you do certain situations. So, yeah. That's all I gotta say about that one.
Yeah, although I don't know if it's so much of a trope considering the advances in complex AI, especially the ones that have been hitting the news lately. The fact that they had that AI program that actually perfectly plays Miss Pac-Man, but the thing about it wasn't the fact that they programmed it. It's just that the AI was built to actually create multiple various programs, and then it shows which one actually worked best after comparing them all. So this is literally like somebody going out of their way and choosing different scenarios and learning from each one and then saying, oh, okay, so this is how I map it out. Yeah. Well, suffice it to say, before I get too much into doom and gloom, yes, Skynet is real and we're going to end up killing ourselves, all right, if you haven't learned anything from anything else. But let's go ahead and let's continue on with E3 here, all right? Just like with things that were already announced. I think one of the things that was new to E3, I know you guys are expecting me to go ahead and touch on God of War, but we'll get to that one because I think that we're going to spend a little bit longer on that one than the next game that I'm going to mention. One of the games that's new to E3 from Sony was Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. So Naughty Dog's spin-off adventure from the Uncharted series. That stars Chloe and Nadine, all right, two previously non-playable characters from the series, all right. This particular one looks interesting. I got to say, I'm probably going to pick it up, but that's because guess what? I've picked up and I've passed all of I played through all of the Uncharted games except I haven't finished 4. I got through the intro on that and then I stopped. But I've got to finish that up. But this one I'm probably going to pick up. I'm going to play through also because, Naughty Dog, they do good games. But what are your guys' thoughts on that particular one?
Okay, Uncharted, girl power. All right, fine. That aside, looks great. Beat the Uncharted except for the 4th one. I'm still playing through that. Looks great. Looks interesting. I want to get it. Let's play that. Let's play that shit. It looks great. And not, as you said, Reverend, Naughty Dog makes good games.
Yep. What about you, Grey Mouse?
I have no doubt that this is a good game because, like y'all said, Naughty Dogs make an excellent game. And you know, I'm interested in this one as well. It kind of looks like, through talking about the trailer, it kind of looks like the girls betray each other, you know, once or twice in there. So that's going to be interesting. But I'm just curious on how they can make or expand on the already, the Uncharted universe. So
I think we could. Yeah, I think we could probably spend a whole video probably talking about the possible ways they could expand the Uncharted universe, especially if they decide to go ahead and they're dedicating all their time to a full-blown game, a full-blown adventure on two previous NPC characters.
Yep.
Now, and like I said, Naughty Dog makes good games. However, that does bring up something that a lot of people were expecting to see at E3, and that was going to be at least more footage, past just a cutscene of The Last of Us 2. Now, I can see the disappointment on everybody else's faces. And I do have to say that, yeah. When did they first announce The Last of Us 2? It was at PSX last year, right? PlayStation Experience 2016, and all they did was just a freaking cutscene, and that was pretty much it. And people went ahead and they lost their minds. I think this particular one, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me giving them a little bit of leeway, because obviously they want to go ahead. Lost Legacy is closer, probably a lot closer to release. They want to go ahead and give that time, and then give dedicate a lot more development efforts to that. But yeah, I am really surprised that they didn't have anything, not even a pre-recorded trailer to go ahead and show off at E3. To tell you the truth.
Yeah, you just basically covered it all right there. Disappointed I didn't see anything about Last of Us 2. But maybe they're holding it off, but still.
Isn't there a PlayStation Experience supposed to be later this year?
They're always going to be PlayStation Experience, but that aside, we want to see it at the biggest stage at E3.
And I kind of agree with Reverend there, though, about that. There's other games that are coming out sooner, and that I guess deserve to have their time in the sun, so to speak. But they could have done something. I mean, her sitting on the bed with a guitar singing is not enough.
I think what was most striking was the fact that it wasn't even mentioned. There wasn't even a fucking peep.
Right.
Not even like, from like some of the actual gameplay demos that were shown like throughout the rest of the week for like day 2 and day 3 of E3. There was like nothing at all of it, which is kind of striking. All right. But let's not dwell on that so much, because we'll wrap up our thoughts on Sony's presentation in a little bit. Like the last two games that we're going to talk about, the first, they're the biggest ones. They're the elephants in the room. All right. The first one, of course, is God of War. Yeah, God of War is looks rather interesting. Okay, and I think, yeah, there are some things about it that yeah, it's really hard for me to go ahead and put my thoughts around. It's just, hey, Kratos got a kid, and somewhere during that story, they're going to explain how he ended up fucking around with the Norse gods, okay, and Norse mythology. And obviously they mention that, and they say, you're an outsider here, and that the gods around here do not take kindly to that. So something's gonna happen during all of that. What do you guys think about the extended trailer that they showed off for that?
Loved it. It was arguably one of the best looking games of E3.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a matter of debate, but it looked awesome. I really want that shit to come out early 2018. Play that shit, enjoy that shit, and I look forward to the story involved, just as the Reverend said.
What about you, Grey Mouse? What are your thoughts on it?
For the God of War, the same thing that you were saying, that I think it's going to be very interesting, and the fact that some of the game trailer that we saw, we didn't see Kronos' son. So I'm wondering if he maybe he got killed in part of the game and he just fucking went ballistic afterwards. Because I mean, like he does anyway.
Didn't that happen in the first God of War trilogy?
Well, the first God of War trilogy, the reason why his family is gone, spoiler if you don't know why, is because that, during when he was known as the Ghost of Sparta and everything like that, he actually ends up killing his own family, while in a rage. And that's also the thing that curses him and also chains the Blades of Chaos to him, all right? Now, obviously, if you're following the events of the God of War all the way through God of War 3, he ended up killing all the gods and everything. He's no longer beholden to any of that, Olympus magic and deity bullshit. So obviously he took a trip, across Europe, and he ended up someplace else, and he's found a brand new neighborhood of mythological figures to go ahead and fuck around with now, and that's what he's doing, obviously. So, but yeah, this one is pretty interesting, and I got to say that I was kind of hoping that they were going to show off a little bit more gameplay, but it did look like, as far as what they did with the God of War presentation, it was just all cinematics and everything. It's like, okay, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna show you, like, Kratos and his boy. Oh, by the way, next weekend, happy Father's Day. Go ahead, do your thing.
for what they did show, it looked like that they kind of toned it back on the QuickTime events.
Well, as far as God of War went, the one thing that they did do is that, yes, they made heavy use of QTEs, but they integrated it into a point where it was very intuitive, and it wasn't intrusive. Unlike other games where it's like, oh, we're in a QTE, we're stuck in this thing now, and it doesn't matter if we got to sit there and pass it, otherwise we're going to die, and we've got to go ahead and go through the whole fucking thing. There are a lot of games out there, as much as I love them, that went through that, which was just like, okay, yeah, I'm not a big fan of QTEs because of that. What about, was there anything else, anybody else want to go ahead and add to this particular one? Mouse, no? No? Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to finish talking about the last game that they decided to end their E3 2017 presentation with, and that is the brand new Arkham SpiderMan, which they went ahead and they did an extended presentation with. I think it was around 10 minutes as far as in gameplay and other stuff like that. Yeah, that's what they decided to go ahead and finish up with, which I gotta say looked pretty cool. What are you guys' thoughts?
It's not Spider-Man's original fucking costume. That aside, everything looked good about this damn gameplay trailer. Yes, it's Arkham. Every which way but loose. Everybody's been saying that, but that's not a fucking bad thing. The way Spider-Man was taking these motherfuckers down, it was Spider-Man-like. And I'm looking forward to the fucking game. That's what I gotta say about that. I loved it. I did love that shit.
Yep. What about you, Grey Mouse? What were your thoughts on that particular?
Yeah, that trailer was definitely Arkhamed. One thing too is I didn't really like the. I guess it was a news reporter or whoever, the mayor, I guess, or somebody who was saying you need to hurry up and superhero faster.
Oh, that's Yuri-chan. That's an actual character from Superior Spider-Man.
Yeah,
so I know who they're working with. Yeah,
I'm not familiar with Superior Spider-Man comic line, but anyway, they kind of took me away from it. I was like, shut up, he's chasing a helicopter through the middle of New York City, and trying to stop the person, from destroying the city, and she's over there. Can you Superman faster, or can you superhero fast enough? Shut up, bitch. Let me do my job. But other than that, yeah, I really did like the idea of putting traps down, and kind of when he started hanging upside down next to that one criminal or one of Kingpin's rival gang members, that was kind of cool. And Kingpin confirmed.
Yeah, Kingpin's confirmed.
So I guess it's like your enemy is your enemy's friend, or a friend of your enemy is your enemy, or something like that, right? So I'm all for it when it comes out. Yeah, I'll probably get it as well. Yeah,
I got to say it definitely looks good. I've been waiting for a really good Spider-Man game ever since Spider-Man 2. From PS2, Xbox, GameCube era. And if you have somebody who has an OG Xbox and you can find the original Spider-Man 2, definitely something to go out there and play. All right. But yeah, there's with everything that was announced. All right, and we don't exactly have time to go ahead and touch the VR games. Although, if I had a pro, I'd probably be a sucker for the fishing game for Final Fantasy 15.
I want to touch on VR games just for a minute. Okay, look, out of all the montage of VR games that they've shown, if you don't have a PS4, I want to know who you are for one. But look, all that shit looked pretty good, but none of that shit was $800 good. If you don't have a fucking PS4, then you don't have or PS4 Pro, the VR, the camera, the dildos, fucking none of that shit was a killer app worth getting all of that for.
Yeah.
Sorry, they just weren't.
Yeah. The thing about it was that, as far as that went, it was just one of those things where it was like, it was still very obvious that Sony is trying to make money off of VR, okay? And I guess at some point I got to applaud that sort of effort. I just don't know where that actually fits in with how well people would actually receive that. Just within this particular room where we shake our heads whenever we start talking about it.
Well, let me mention this VR shit. I'm sorry for calling it shit, but it is to me. I have no interest in that shit at all. And I don't know how many people do. I would love to be a fly on the wall at Sony headquarters and find out what is the attachment rate of the Sony VR. Because it was obvious this conference that they were still trying to push it. And like you mentioned earlier, the theme was mentioned. $800 to get started. You have the VR set, the VR headset. What? That's $300, right, or whatever.
That's $399.
Okay, $400. Then you have to get the PlayStation Move, 2 of them, and you have to have the PlayStation camera. So you're pushing $600-700 just for starting. Now, don't get me wrong. The PlayStation VR, what is it? Resident Evil 7 VR? Fucking A. Yeah.
Well, they're going to have Fallout 4 VR. They're going to have
Skyrim VR.
Yeah.
What was that other game that was
Doom.
that's really good?
Doom.
Huh?
Doom is going VR.
Yeah. It's just not enough good games, and they didn't show, in my opinion, any good games for VR, with the exception of the Skyrim. I'm not interested in that Star Child. That was horrible. The Impatient, that was interesting.
Impatient.
But to me, I think that is what type of games fit VR perfectly, are the horror genre. That is perfect for VR. But once you find where the jump scares are, it kind of doesn't have any. Why would you play it again?
Yeah.
The jump scare, you know what I mean? So
yeah, it's
for me. It just really is.
Yeah, I gotta say that for as much as they've got so far, it's still a tough sell. It really is a tough sell. That we got to go ahead and imagine. The one thing that we have to realize is that even though it's a tough sell, they're invested already.
Yeah, they went and they jumped in that hot water feet first.
Yeah, and because of that, you know, the thing with that is that, you know, because they are still invested, they still have to make some sort of push. I think right now, as far as it goes, it really is. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to pan out the way that Sony was hoping it was going to pan out.
So,
in fact,
I got a question for you, man. I'm sorry to cut you off. Is it going to turn into a Connect where they talk about it for like 2-3 years and then all of a sudden it blips off the radar?
This thing is just way too expensive.
To me, it sounds like, I mean, I feel that that's what's happening here, is that it's turning into a Connect.
Like I say, this thing is just way too expensive and for the games that support the console or a Pro and all of that shit.
Connect did the same thing. It was $100. It brought the price up on the Xbox One.
Yeah.
So I mean, are we seeing another Connect-like thing where they'll talk about it for
unless they have a killer app within the next 2 years?
I'd give it one more year. If they maybe, I don't know, if they don't talk about it in E3 2018.
Well, now wait a minute. They didn't talk about the Vita this year. Not on their stage.
Yeah,
and
but
that
they did last year.
Really confused me. I was like, "Whoa, there's nothing on the Vita." Damn.
But that should be the conversation, our next conversation about the overall PlayStation conference. But for the VR games, that's not my niche. It just isn't. I'm not interested. Yeah, I do bat an eyebrow about the Doom VR, Skyrim VR, and
Fallout 4.
And Fallout 4 VR. I've already played those games, so I don't need to play them in VR. Sorry, that's just not my thing. But if that's what you want, so be it.
Yeah, you know what? We're probably gonna have to wrap up on a second video, okay? But all I gotta say about VR here is that okay. There are 2 points. I understand that Sony is investing. They still need to go ahead and try to make some sort of effort to make money back. Okay, if not because they've got stock out there, but also because they went ahead and they put a lot of R&D time into this. All right, so it's just the man hours lost would be just completely catastrophic for them. Okay, Now here's the thing: if VR loses, it's not just Sony's loss, all right? Because the thing is that VR has not hit to the level that people were expecting it to across the fucking board, okay? The only section of VR or VR displays, all right, that saw any, the greatest level of adoption were people running around with like freaking the headsets for Samsung, like Gear VR, okay? Basically using their smartphones. Okay, but even then, generally speaking, the novelty of that kind of wore off after, the Samsung S8 is now out, and the newest versions of Androids are now out, and there is neither a peep here nor there about VR. Mm-hmm. So industry-wide, VR is definitely, I think, has proved greatly that it is not the world-changing new thing that people are going to adopt out there. Okay. However, I will say this on an odd point. Okay. Look, if you're somebody who's out there saying, "Oh, hey, why is so and so going ahead and bringing out remade games onto their as a new property for their system?" Okay, and then if you're the same guy, and you're turning around saying how you want to go ahead and play Fallout 4 or Skyrim in fucking VR. And you think that's the greatest thing since sliced bread? Fuck you. Okay, that's all I gotta say about that. Fuck you. All right.
One thing that I'm worried about is that Microsoft is such a big company, and they have a lot of money that they could recover from the Kinect failure.
Yeah.
If this fails, if PlayStation VR fails, can Sony have the revenue or the to get out of this, to move on? That's what I'm worried about, is that Sony's not as big as Microsoft in the funding department.
They would have to really, really lower the price of this thing like Christmas.
And that's one thing I wanted to bring up. If this becomes a failure, are they going to be able to recover from this? Especially after, like you said, Reverend, the resources and development is through the roof for that shit. and it's not catching on like they wanted to.
Well, yeah.
When I go into, I see PlayStation VR modules sitting there, the shelf full. Nobody's buying.
In short, yes, they can. All right, no, this is not going to sink Sony. Will it hurt? Yes.
Sony. No, I didn't.
Yes, it will fucking hurt. Will it sink them? No, it will not. But it's also very telling that guess what? Microsoft, by all industry reports, by people who are working in the areas of augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality, all right, are saying stuff like the HoloLens and that Microsoft is making these huge leaps forward into this shit. But guess what? They held off, and they saw the writing on the wall, okay? They still haven't went ahead and dropped an entry into that fucking marketplace.
It's not going to. From what I understand from Microsoft's standpoint, they're actually going to use the AR, augmented reality, for their Windows 10. They're not making gains for that.
You see, and this is the thing about it. I've talked to people about this, and I'm like, do people really give a fuck about VR? Okay, look, and that was the question here. People was like, oh, virtual reality is the next thing. That was 20-something years ago. Now that they actually implemented VR and all this shit, it's way too expensive. There's no killer apps. There's not enough interest in order to bring it home 100%.
Anything short of the holodeck on the USS Enterprise, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. But yeah, I gotta say, with as far as what Sony has went ahead and offered everybody, you know, within their presentation for the games and all of that, this is pretty much an encapsulation of our thoughts of what they offered. Okay, next video that we're gonna jump into, all right, part 2 that you're gonna see coming someplace in this playlist is gonna be our wrap up and our complete thoughts of everything overall that Sony did, even in thoughts in consideration of the presentation itself. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Go ahead and watch out for us to go ahead and release out part number 2 for our wrap up. All right. With that, let's go ahead and end this one up right here. I'm the Reverend.
The Theme here.
And I'm Grey Mouse 1.
Once again, for the benefits of common sense, logic, and gaming. Credits.
And we'll see you in part 2.